Did you hear Nikolai earlier this morning talking about what's in the papers? And there's this story about Dick Smith, who's he's a national figure as a businessman and philanthropist. Somebody actually made up a video of him being interviewed, spruiking a product, and it's complete fake. Now, when Dick looked at this, he thought somebody had gone back and found old interviews and maybe spliced them together because it was so realistic. He thought, oh, that's me. And then he realised that he never, ever said those things. So this is something you can see apparently on social media. It's doing the rounds. And he said he never made those comments at all. It's completely fake. Now, in a moment, we'll hear from Dick and how he managed that. There are other examples of this sort of thing going on. Apparently, an interview between Alison Langdon, who is the new host of A Current Affair on Channel 9, and Jim Chalmers, the federal treasurer, that's also just been completely made up. But it looks absolutely real. We're going to hear from Dan Halpin. He's a private cyber investigator. How can we restore some integrity to this system? And we'll talk to Paul Gordon. He's a lawyer. He's been a guest on the program many times before about what is the law here. But Dick Smith joins us now. Good morning, Dick Smith.
Good morning there. I'm talking to David.
Yes, you are, Dick. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since we've spoken, but thank you for joining us. Can you tell us, when you first saw this interview, what were your impressions?
Well, I thought it was me. I mean, here I am talking to the camera, and I thought, gee, that's interesting. And then I realised the whole thing was a scam, that it's what they call Deepfake. And what they did is they got an interview that I did with Sky News about population, and then they've used a computer to change the text, to change what I'm saying, and to change the lip sync, but wait for it, to use my accent. So it sounds like me, but it's saying things I've never said in my life.
How long before you realised that this wasn't something that had been dodgied up from other interviews, but in fact was an entirely new creation?
It was quite a while, because I had no idea that a computer using artificial intelligence could do such a thing. I mean, it's incredibly dangerous. They could have the Prime Minister telling us on television that we're declaring war, but the whole thing was completely fabricated. He'd never said anything like that at all.
What were you selling, by the way?
What I was selling is some scam monetary system. And by the way, the people to blame for this are Facebook and Instagram, because they could easily stop these ads. They've been going, this is the first deep fake one, but just normal fake ones using my photograph and quoting me have been going for nearly 2 years, and I've been trying to stop it. But both Facebook and Instagram, the greed of that Mark Zuckerberg is so great that they don't do even the simplest checking for anyone to run an ad on their sites. And so you end up with this. I think I'm told by the police that millions of dollars has been lost by Australians in believing what I'm saying when it's a complete scam.
That's appalling. But do you have any legal recourse here, Dick? Because your reputation is obviously being damaged as a result of this.
Of course I do, but it's impossible. Andrew Forrest has taken Facebook to court and with a criminal charge, but Facebook just have so much money, and Instagram, they have so much money, they just delay the whole thing. And the ACCC have taken Facebook to court, I noticed in the news. But once again, that's just delayed forever while Facebook keep making money. You've got to understand the greed of this man is unlimited. Mark Zuckerberg, he's worth $150 million and he just wants more money. So he will do anything he can, forget ethics, anything he can to make more money.
And by the way, this is a real Dick Smith that we're talking to. It's
well, I hope. Yeah, it actually is. But how would you really know?
Well, how would you know?
The problem.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, what I'm going to do is do a video and hopefully it'll go viral, telling people to never, ever, and everyone who's listening now, never, ever believe in an advertisement that's on Facebook or Instagram. Simply, I understand up to 50% are scams. Never, ever send any money. Basically, disregard Facebook and Instagram. And if you're an advertiser, don't advertise with them because they're a scam organisation, and your name will go down as their name goes down.
Okay, well, that's Dick Smith's personal opinion, and you can see why he would be so very, very upset. Imagine what it would be like if you went onto a social media site and it looks like you because originally it was you, but it's been manipulated to say things that you have never said. It's really very scary stuff. Let's go to Dan Halpin. He's a private cyber investigator. Good morning, Dan Halpin.
Good morning.
What do we do about this?
It's quite a difficult situation, and I have spoken with Dick about this, and we both agree that something absolutely needs to be done. From our side, we are quite deeply entrenched in the technology in the intelligence world, so we're looking to create with business partners some quite intelligent technology that can take on the affiliate marketers who are behind these types of advertisements.
Okay. So do you see the Dick Smiths of this world ever getting any comfort?
I would say that it's probably unlikely in terms of taking Facebook and Instagram on because, as Dick mentioned, they do have a great deal of money. And even if they do lose a court case, it's just the cost of doing business for them. The only really real thing that we can hope for in this situation is for the government to create some very strong legislation which then attempts to control the level of scamming that is coming from these social media platforms.
Okay, now Barry on the text line, he apparently has seen this, and he said it was a terrible deep fake because the lips don't even, the words don't match up with the lips. Well, okay, well, Dick Smith was fooled for a while. He was wondering how this ever was created or made, and I suppose that's not really the point, is it? Because if it's only going to get more sophisticated, Dan.
That's right, yes. So this type of technology is really taking off. For a long time, we knew that it was heading in this direction where it was going to become a lot more realistic. And when we first discovered this video last week, we straight away realised that we've got to that point of the new generation of deepfakes. And that's why we took a specific interest in this. And in terms of looking for indicators of it being fake, then yes, that is right, where the lips don't necessarily match up. But when someone is just flicking through Facebook or Instagram and they hear voices that they know and they trust, they're not really looking for those fine level features. It's not until you go back and have a closer look that you can see, okay, well, yeah, that doesn't really line up. But by then, most of the time, the damage is already done.
Yeah, Paul Gordon is a lawyer who specialises in this sort of thing, and we've had him in the studio many times over the years. Good morning, Paul Gordon.
Good morning.
Paul, it's not much comfort, is it, to say, oh, don't worry, that these are dodgy if you look close enough, because A, they're only going to get more sophisticated, and B, it's just wrong.
Look, I agree entirely, and the sophistication of these is becoming more and more impressive. Even if this one was, as I think Barry was saying, unconvincing, many of them are exceptionally well done, and it does create a significant risk of people being misled or deceived.
So, if somebody listening has been deceived or finds their own image being manipulated, because again, I would have thought it's only a matter of time before this kind of technology, this kind of expertise becomes very widespread. What do you do about this, Paul Gordon?
Well, it is unlawful in this instance. So we've talked before on the show about the fact that I don't have the right to my own image. People can take photos of me and do what they like with them generally, unless they are implying that I have endorsed or sponsored some kind of product or service, which is exactly what this content is. So because that is what is being done, this is unlawful. It's a breach of the Australian consumer law, which says that you can't do that. There are significant penalties for the I guess, the companies who are making the adverts, and there are also potentially, I think, quite strong argument that the platforms that host them are also responsible.
And I wonder, Paul, whether the market will to a degree take care of this, because as people realise what Dick Smith is saying, and that is on social media, if you are posting your own ads, there's no gateway, there's no filter, or the social media platform refuses to act as a gatekeeper. People will think, well, I just can't trust what's on these social platforms, so I'll just go back to the old media, the legacy media, because I know somebody had to pay somebody in an office to put that ad up there, and there was a checking process.
Well, I think that is, sadly, a bit optimistic if we look at the example of what happens on X, so formerly Twitter, where that is just a hotbed of misinformation, and yet whilst it's been like that for at least over a year since it was taken over, people are still using the platform, and big advertising companies continue to advertise on it, despite the fact that all of that's happening.
Maybe the established media, which would include the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, should pull away from these platforms, because while we're there, we're giving them legitimacy. But anyway, that's people further up my pay scale will make that decision. Paul, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Good on you, Paul. Paul Gordon, Adelaide lawyer. Dan Halpin, he's a private cyber investigator. And of course, we began with Dick Smith, who is known, he's a household name, entrepreneur and philanthropist. And he's pretty angry. He's pretty angry because somebody took his image and manipulated it. It's at 26